Good morning, and thank you for joining us here this morning. My name is Peter Bocking. I'm here in Oshawa, and I'm joined by our three mayoral candidates here, Dan Carter, Joan Gino, and Sarah Lear. Thank you for being here with us today. As I mentioned, my name is Peter Bocking. I'm a business owner here in Oshawa, and I am the president of the board for the Greater Oshawa Chamber of Commerce. Before we begin this morning, I think we'd like to, in the spirit of truth and reconciliation, we'd like to acknowledge that the Oshawa Chamber's catchment area is situated on the traditional lands of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation and rests within the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe. These lands are covered under the Williams Treaties, and as settlers on these lands, we are all treaty people. Let us respectfully honor the knowledge and understanding of the Indigenous stewards who have cared for the lands and waterways from the beginning. And as settlers, we're grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. So this morning's discussion is brought to you by the Greater Oshawa Chamber of Commerce. We're an organization that's built around supporting businesses in the local area. We aim to bring folks together for networking purposes, but we're also here to advocate for businesses as well against all levels of government when needed. And in addition to the Greater Oshawa Chamber of Commerce, we want to make sure that we thank our event sponsors for this morning, the Durham Region Association of Realtors, as well as the Durham Region Home Builders Association. So a very special thanks to them for their sponsorship and their collaboration in pulling today's event together. And also a very special thanks to the team here at Rogers TV, not only for hosting us, but for making sure that our event is available for all to view. So thank you to Rogers as well. And to our candidates, we'd like to thank each of you personally as well. We can appreciate the time and the sacrifice that can be made in taking on a role like this, even through the election process, let alone the job that's to follow. We thank you for your leadership and your willingness to step up, on behalf of you and your families, because I know that there's a lot that goes into this. So thank you for that, and as well for being here today to have a healthy discussion. Our goal today is a respectful, helpful discussion. It'll allow each of you for a fair opportunity to articulate your personal commitments to the role, should you be given the opportunity to lead the city of Oshawa. Just going over some of our rules of engagement for today. So there will be, unfortunately, no town hall discussion today, just as a result of being sort of, we got to watch our time. Each question that'll be positioned, first of all, you'll have an opportunity for 2 minutes each for an opening statement, and then we'll launch into a series of questions. Each question, you'll each be allotted the same 2 minutes for your responses. And then at the end, we'll wrap with another 2 minutes of any closing remarks you wish to close with. During the time of the Q&A, we'll try to avoid much in the way of back and forth. If I sort of feel there's an opportunity for a rebuttal or a response to a statement, then I'll grant a rebuttal where needed, and those rebuttals will allot an additional 30 seconds for your response to whatever it might be. And I think I've covered everything. I'm just checking my notes here. It looks like we're good to go. So we're going to go ahead and kick things off with some opening remarks. So we drew some names from a hat last night, and our lucky winner to start us off this morning here is Joe. So please fire away with your opening remarks.
Well, I'd like to welcome everybody that's watching so early in the morning. We appreciate it. I'd like to begin by saying that I thank, on behalf of my colleagues here, Rogers and the Chamber of Commerce, for hosting us this morning. My name is Joe Gino, and I'm running for the position of Mayor of Oshawa. My primary goal for running is to clean up our streets, rid our crime from our downtown, and bring back municipal government to you, the taxpayer. Taxes keep going up and our quality of life keeps going down. That's unacceptable, and that's my primary reason for running. The secondary is to take control of the out of control development to the north. There's no planning, there's no vision, and it's time to bring back the municipal government to the control of those that pay their taxes. We want good old-fashioned city, good old-fashioned Oshawa that we all learn to love and we all learn to bring up our families.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. And Dan Carter.
So good morning, Peter. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much to opponents, thank you very much for the opportunity to be able to join you. My name is Dan Carter, and I've been fortunate and had the privilege of being the mayor of the great city of Oshawa over the last 4 years. And let me just say that the last 4 years have been challenging, to say the least. Matter of fact, one of the most challenging times in the history of our great city. Of course, all of us faced a pandemic that impacted our lives tremendously in every aspect of it. And of course, 3 days before I was sworn into office, General Motors informed us that they were going to make a different business decision and our assembly line was closed down. That being said, the spirit of Oshawa has shone through. As a matter of fact, the citizens pulled together to be able to find the great things at our city. We sit here 4 years later with one of the lowest unemployment rates in Canada, lower than the province of Ontario. General Motors has 3,000 people working on the assembly line, 3 shifts, $2 billion invested. We are seeing record investment in our community at $2.5 billion over the last 4 years. Matter of fact, the city of Oshawa will be the first city in the region of Durham to be able to achieve $1 billion in one calendar year in regards to development in our city. What does that mean? Thousands and thousands of jobs here locally. And that means that you can work here, you can live here, you can be educated here, and get world-class healthcare here. We still have many challenges in front of us, but I'm confident in regards to the spirit of our community and the direction that we are in. Over the last little while, our finances are the strongest that they have been in the last 25 years, and I'm proud. I am proud and honored to be the mayor of the great city of Oshawa, and I look forward to your support on October 24th.
Thank you very much,
Peter.
Thank you. And Sarah Lear.
Good morning, everyone. And I'd like to thank the Oshawa Chamber of Commerce, Durham Region Association of Realtors, also the Durham Region Home Builders Association, and Peter for moderating today. My name is Sarah Lear, and many of you know me from my multiple presentations and emails I've been sending to Council and presenting to Council. I've asked a lot of questions over the last 4 years and never got a single answer. And that's one of the reasons why I'm running for mayor, to get us answers to these tough questions and get down to the bottom of what's going on. The past 4 years have been hard on everyone. I have spent this time reflecting on my previous run and learning more about the hard work that Council needs to do. But while I've had this opportunity, so many of my neighbors have been left behind. Oshawa is a beautiful place, but it is quickly becoming unaffordable for the average resident and small business owner that made Oshawa the place that we call home today. From the real potential for a crisis 24/7 shelter run by our city to mandated ecologically and financially responsible developments, the next 4 years holds so much potential. I have watched local small businesses lose contracts to out-of-province conglomerates. I see a lack of fiscal responsibility on behalf of our current local governments, and I want to repair all of this and achieve so much more. So I hope that you join me, and I hope that you will turn out on October 24th, 2022, and vote for me, Sarah Lear. Please visit www.saralear.ca, because if you want an Oshawa for everyone, the choice is clear, Sarah Lear.
Thank you very much, Sarah, and thanks to all three of you for your opening remarks. Just before we get started, for folks off who can't see, obviously off camera, we do have a timer who's keeping an eye on our 2 minutes. So for each of the following questions, each candidate will have 2 minutes to provide their response. And here we go. May the discussion begin. So question number 1, with respect to the downtown business core, which is not as vibrant and prosperous as it could be, what would you like to see different about downtown in the next 10 years? And if elected, what would you do during your term to drive that vision forward? And this morning we're going to start this question off with Sarah.
Wonderful. I think we definitely have to fix a parking solution. If we are trying to make downtown a destination place, while I appreciate that through our streetscaping program, we expanded the sidewalk on King Street and there's plans to expand the sidewalk on Bond, we've now lost multiple parking spaces. When I go see tribute shows at the Regent Theatre, I'm fortunate enough to be able to walk there living at Bond and Ritson. But when I have my friends come and visit from out of town, they can't find parking. We do not have adequate parking right now. And we've continued to allow further development of condominium buildings where there was an opportunity for them to build underground parking, much like they have around the Scotiabank Arena in Toronto. And yet instead, we granted them exemptions on their parking requirements and allowed them to lease parking spaces from the Mary Street parking garage, which is our public parking. So I'm not really sure how we're supposed to make our downtown a destination place when we have no parking available. So what I'd like to do is make sure that we address that in our future developments, that parking is being developed adequately. Another thing that I'd like to see is offering more packages downtown. So we can be partnering with the Regent Theatre, the Biltmore Theatre, the Future Music Hall, and Stage 44 when they open. Because entertainment is what will drive people to our downtown. People like live music, they like live shows, and they want to be a part of a community. And in order to do that, they need to be able to have the time to spend there. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Dan.
So thank you very much, Peter. I guess there's a couple of things that should be clarified. As one is, any of our new developments, we have a parking requirement in regards to all new developments. So 80 Bond is a prime example, 3 underground levels for parking. So that was part of making sure that that project moved forward. It's 375 units, 3 levels of parking that is there. And we're required for many developments to make sure that they have a parking requirement. Sarah is correct. We utilized for 70 King, which was the Janosh Hotel, an opportunity to be able to work with the Summers Group to be able to lease them spots in the Mary Street garage. We only were able to do that because we had surplus in regards to it. So the parking issue in all downtowns will continue to be a point that we're going to have to address and make sure that we've got adequate parking. As a matter of fact, with Lot 16 at this particular time, we are looking at a 3-to-1 ratio in regards to the development of a surface lot. And I'm excited about that because I know we've got 9,500 residential units, almost 20,000 new residents that'll be moving in downtown. In regards to the business community has grown, believe it or not, over the last 4 years. We've got net new businesses that are in the downtown. It's a unique experience, and it is family-run businesses. And that's what I love about our downtown. It gives you an opportunity to be able to have a unique experience, except for, outside of the Oshawa Center. So I'm really pleased about that. And we're also seeing some exciting other projects that are coming about. I like to see that the expansion of our post-secondary education is continuing to expand. Ontario Tech just made a major announcement with more investment on Bruce Street. So I believe that our downtown is at the early stages of the redevelopment, and I'm very excited about what awaits us. But I'm optimistic about the downtown core.
Thank you, Dan. And Joe, after you.
Well, as heading the most successful Shop Local program in the last 10 years in Oshawa, the Shopping Gino initiative, I'm constantly in contact with the people that are the frontline merchants. Parking is one issue, but not the primary issue. The primary issue is crime, drugs that are being brought into our city, and that people that are coming in from outside of our area to take advantage of our social services, that creates a very hostile environment downtown. If people don't feel safe walking our streets, you can have as much parking as you want, it's not going to be effective. The key to the success of our downtown, in which we have one of the downtowns that has been neglected for the last 20 years, the administrations prior to Carter's has always been to promote the Oshawa Center, and it slowly has drained away the life of our downtown. It's time to take it back. We have a Costco that was allowed to come overnight almost, and again, it drained businesses. Now we're in a polar situation, whereas the downtown is left to fend for themselves, and the city has given them very little support. So much so that the BIA had to be closed. That's an embarrassment in itself for anybody that's in charge of running our city. The problem with our downtown is that our municipal government does not have direction, and it does not have a plan of action. Plan of action is Let the merchants have a proper cut on their hydro bills. Let the merchants have some sort of a program where they can enjoy a cut on their rentals. It's about investing in our downtown. It's about redeveloping our downtown and really listening to the needs of the merchants of the core. As of now, I monitor for 20 years the downtown, and administration after administration has failed. Under my administration, I can assure you that our merchants are number one.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much. Just hit our time there. Thank you. Okay, moving on to next question. So Oshawa has transitioned from being a strictly industrial town. So what initiatives do you propose to accelerate the change of a low carbon economy in light of this change? And how will you, as mayor, attract investment for this transition? So we'll start this question off with Dan.
So thank you again, Peter. It's an interesting time because one of the pillars of my platform is caring for the environment, and we are going through a very interesting time at City Hall where we're transitioning from combustion to electric vehicles. And I drive an electric vehicle because I love it, and it's a great car. But I think the government has to demonstrate in regards to what we're going to be able to do in regards to protecting the environment and when it comes to our carbon footprint. That's the reason why we've protected so much green space. That's why we've been able to secure and made sure that our waterfront is available to everyone, but protected. The Second Marsh, we just protected that. Camp Samak is now protected under the city initiatives that we put forward. We also have looked after the Southfield. All of these initiatives are part of our commitment in regards to the environment itself. The other component of it is, because of our post-secondary educational students that are here, we are one of the hottest tech communities in all of Canada. And I think what that does is bring different ideas and different concepts that we can apply here. The great thing about municipal government is, if we've got assets such as our post-secondary education, tapping into that talent to be able to utilize at City Hall, to be able to bring new ideas together, are some of the most exciting things. You'll know in our downtown core, for an example, we have a whole bunch of charging stations. The very first downtown in Durham region that has charging stations. We want to demonstrate what our commitment is in regards to options that are available when we address the environment. So I think that the actions that we've taken over the first 4 years of this council, and hopefully the next 4 years, will continue to demonstrate that we've got to get serious about the environment. We have to look at the talent that is here and tap into that talent to be able to create new opportunities and new technologies to be able to make sure that we meet the needs of our community. The reality being is, we can do all the great things, look after our finances, bring jobs here, make it affordable for people. But if we don't care for the environment, we're in a heap of trouble. And I'm very much committed in regards to it. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Dan, very much. Joe, over to you.
Well, great speech about electric cars. That's sensational. But our city's broken right now, and we need to repair it. Under the previous administration, they allowed GM to leave Oshawa, pretty much. They've come back as a token. They know what's behind the scenes in regards to who owns the properties at GM. It's owned by the people of Oshawa. Those lands are in excess of millions and millions of dollars. GM knows that if they pull out, they're going to be losing that asset. Under the original agreement, it was set that as long as they produce one car, they have access to those properties. Even Dan Carter and the current administration does not know where those documents lie within City Hall. If GM was to pull out totally, they lose control. Now, they leave us with a humongous environmental mess. You want to talk about an environment, right? $30 million to clean the area where they're erecting a $4 million broadband park in order to promote the NDP and the South End. That's wrong. That's your money that they're spending in order to make themselves look good. Under the Ingeno administration, we're going to be very careful where we spend our money and in regards to your taxation in order to maintain it at a steady, at a freeze, really, where they keep increasing at 1%, 2%, and they things like they're doing us a great favor. They're not. Look at the environment where they're putting the park. Look at the lands in which they allow GM to pollute. We talk about the environment and electric cars. Who's going to park their car downtown a $70,000 car at a charging station for 2 or 3 hours when they haven't been able to clean up the crime and the many people that are sleeping on our streets, the many people that are using drugs openly on our streets. It just doesn't make sense.
Okay, so thank you, Joe. We'll open up an opportunity for a quick rebuttal, but before we do, I'd like to hear Sarah's comments. Sarah, over to you.
So, yes, I agree that we were formerly primarily an industrial town. I am not necessarily in favor of rezoning our employable lands for residential development, as I've seen us continue to do for the past 10 years that I've been here. I would like to point out that there is ample information available on municipal strategies with municipal action plans and best practices laid out by other cities that have already been started. And anybody can access this information on fcm.ca, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. There are ample case studies available on brownfield redevelopments, on how to green your city. For example, why are we not looking at the developers and challenging them to say, we'd like to start being one of the first cities to have a net zero carbon emission in our developments and our operating of our buildings. So for example, Peterborough right now is actively tendering a fire station which will be geothermal powered. It will have solar panels. It will have multiple different initiatives that are available from a construction perspective that we aren't challenging our developers to try to do. And I'd like to see more of that because, yes, to Dan Carter's point, there are many new buildings that are going up, but I'm not seeing solar panels on them, and I'm not seeing green roofs on them. And it's not that we can't retrofit our existing buildings. That's one of the things I'd like to do to generate revenue for our city is renting building rooftop space to companies that install solar panels and generate their own electricity and resell into the grid. And many other ideas available on www.sarahlear.ca. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. And just heard a couple of comments here. So Dan, just 30 seconds on the clock if we could for a response.
Yeah, I mean, let's get facts on the table. General Motors owns the land. General Motors has got 3,000 people that are working there, and they've spent $2 billion. The Ed Broadband part is not a $4 million commitment, it's a $10 million commitment. What we also have to understand is the Ed Broadband Park, you cannot build on it. It is a people's land, and it also at a previous time was contaminated, it's being cleaned, but it's being capped. You can't build on those lands. In regards to geothermal, we have housing developments here. In Ward 3, we actually have developers working with the city to be able to have geothermal and net zero. So it is already happening in the city. So just clarification. Thank you, Peter.
Appreciate the clarification. And Joe, we'll give 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm just very confused. When was those lands cleaned at $30 million? I mean, who cleaned them? That's my question to Dan. I have not heard or seen any documents pertaining to any cleanups of those lands. The last documents that I've seen was that the city of Oshawa, if they didn't do something with it, they were going to be on the hook to the feds for, I think it was like $30,000 a month. And the city decided, well, $30,000 we'll spend, you know, like he said, I was wrong, about the $10 million. Dan, there's something that's not right here. Where's the documents that show that you cleaned those lands for $30 million?
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Okay. We'll move on to the next question. So into question 3 here. Should we have different growth strategies with respect to our waterfront, midtown, and surrounding areas, and what should they be? We'll start this one with Joe.
Well, we are the last of all Durham region to have our waterfront developed. 8 years ago, I came up with a program. The city turned it down because it wasn't a city initiative and they didn't even understand where to begin. It's all about leadership and it's all about vision. We have a great waterfront and we have great potentials for a world-class marina, for a structure there that will house both entertainment and living quarters. We have the pristine of the park that will not be changed or compromised. We have the space. I just learned now that they cleaned $30 million worth of contaminated lands just south of Broadbent. I don't believe that for a minute until I see the document, and I keep an eye on it all the time. I see great future coming to the south end where developing those lands south of the Broadbent Park will bring increased property value to all the homes in the general area. The key is to work with the most underdeveloped area of our town, and that is the south end, primarily our waterfront. Great potential. And I see that in the near future, all those with properties and interest in the south end will have their investments increase in volume.
Thank you very much. Sarah, up to you.
I'm not necessarily sure if we need different strategies. I think a primary strategy for us right now should be focusing on building more affordable housing everywhere, not just in one spot. That's what we need, and that's the greatest problem right now that we have in this city. Would I like to see development all out throughout the city? Absolutely. Would I like to see our waterfront not be a giant wall of condominiums like what happened in Toronto? Absolutely. I'd like to see why we can't have a functioning marina like our neighboring municipalities here in Durham region. I understand that there have been interest previously from private developers to do so, but dredging the waterfront was going to be a costly activity that was required and somewhat cost prohibitive. But I believe now that the potential is there. And I appreciate with the new development that's in discussion that they are entertaining the idea of a marina. But entertaining the idea and executing on the idea are two different things. So I would like to see us put, at least at a minimum, a public boat launch in place immediately. 4 years ago when I was running, I said I'd like to make our waterfront wheelchair accessible. And guess what? We were able to do that, which is wonderful. And now I'd like to see us put a public boat launch in too. I'd like to see if we could make sure that our development makes sense. So let's build large family homes near schools where children can go to. Doesn't make sense to build homes for families where there's no schools in close relation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah. Dan.
Peter, do you mind repeating a question
Absolutely.
again, please, if you don't mind?
So should we have different growth strategies with respect to our waterfront, midtown, and surrounding areas, and what should they be?
So thank you for the question. As everyone knows, we've got provincial plans, regional official plans, municipal plans, zoning plans. Our zoning bylaw started in 1994. We do an annual review on an annual basis to be able to see how zoning has to change. I think all municipalities are looking at how to utilize land in the very best possible way we can. One of the ways that a lot of the discussions are about how do you use those main arteries in regards to intensification and looking at those opportunities. We've got some great examples of it. At Sunset in Simcoe, there was one house on a corner lot, and now that corner lot has about 120 units on it that are rental units. We go north on Simcoe, onto just north of Taunton and on the right-hand side, which is on the east side. Again, single-family homes that were there in the 1920s have been taken down, large lots, and we're going to see multi-residential. I think what we have to look at is the mix of housing, the mix of opportunities that are there. So when you look at the south end, of course, we've got great opportunities. North of Harbour Road, of course, the Naheed Corporation has bought all that land and has their condo towers that will be going there. You look at in the central zone, you've got almost 20,000 units that'll be, or 20,000 people and almost 10,000 units for the downtown core. You look at the northern part of our city and you're looking at infill and opportunity to utilize on main arteries. A large conversation is how do we address the affordability factor? And that's making sure that we have the right mix of housing, utilizing land in the best possible way, and make sure that those lands and those houses are available in regards to transit, shopping, jobs, healthcare, and I think that that's what the plan does. It really helps us achieve that. So I think zoning all the way across has to be reviewed on a regular basis and has to make sure that we implement it for the best interest of accomplishing, which is a housing crisis across this country.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Okay, question number 4. Cities compete with each other and also work cooperatively. How can we balance competition for business and resources with fruitful collaboration between our municipalities? And we'll start this question with Sarah.
Well, it's interesting. In the previous question, Dan Carter mentioned all of the zoning and assessments and municipal and provincial reports and targets that are set. There's a land needs assessment survey, and that is also available for review on the Durham Region website. And you'll see that our current population is sitting at about 670,000. And we have a population growth target for 2050 set for us by the province of 1.3 million. How do we get there while protecting our environment and maintaining our lands? It's interesting to me because I'm frustrated that as the largest municipality in Durham Region and with the most aggressive growth target from this survey out of all of Durham Region, we are not receiving the largest piece of the pie from Durham Region. I'm frustrated that our former mayor, who was promoted to the regional chair position, who works collaboratively with our current mayor, and they foster a wonderful relationship. Why have we not been able to do more for our city? How come an Amazon warehouse went into Pickering and Whitby and Ajax and Clarington got the new OPG head office? I've watched development go up all around our city, but not in our city. We were fighting to get a second hospital, which makes sense. We're the ones with the airport for emergency evac, among other things. And instead, we got a second Costco. I would have rather seen a second hospital. So yes, I would like to collaborate with the municipalities, but at the end of the day, I think that Oshawa needs to be getting their fair share, and that hasn't been happening. And that's what I like to do, to fight for us, to make sure we get our fair share. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Dan.
So I guess a couple things. One is I believe that I'm going to fight for Oshawa each and every time. So when it comes to the hospital, I've made our case that even though through the exercise they've selected another community, I'm not going to give up, because I know that it's going to be 3 governments before a shovel's in the ground. It's a $2 billion investment. And I honestly believe in my heart of hearts that Oshawa is the best suited place for it. Our 5 unique attributes should be there. Healthcare plays an important part in our community. So I'm always going to be fighting for Oshawa and making sure that we happen, the jobs and the opportunity happen. Over the last 5 years, outside of the automobile industry, we've seen a net new jobs of about 6,000 jobs. You hear about how Amazon and these other companies are coming to communities in the surrounding areas. Well, believe it or not, they're coming to our community too. Northwood Business Park has about 5 million square feet of industrial space that has been bought and is going through the planning process. And in the early part of 2023, you'll hear the announcements that are coming there. As a matter of fact, large companies from around the world I meet with on a regular basis that are moving here because of the talent base, because of the affordability, because of transportation. All of those attributes are really making Oshawa very friendly. The great thing about OPG being next door is the suppliers also need to relocate here. The small modular nuclear units, they have companies like GE and Tahashi and all these companies, and they're looking at moving to Oshawa so that there's an opportunity to be able to provide those services to OPG. So when it comes to working with the region, absolutely. We want to do everything we possibly can. We want to work with all of our communities. But when it comes to Oshawa, I want to fight each and every day to make sure that the jobs come here, the investment comes here, and the prosperity is here. So Oshawa first.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Joe.
Well, as we heard, we can wish all we want, but the reality it is that we have nothing done at the lake. We have a downtown that's falling apart, that people are sleeping on our streets and using drugs widely and openly. We have a police services that has lost control or has lost confidence on our municipal elect, as they have no leadership and no guidance. We have to the north development that has sprung, and who knows. And the funny thing is, if you drive up into some of these developments, before they're even dug into the ground, they have signs proudly stating that they sold out. Now, who's doing the planning at City Hall? Who's doing the thinking at City Hall? And we want to talk about attracting businesses, as you've heard from my colleague. There's no such thing. We're giving away to major players, and they're using our municipality and then turning around and saying, well, here's affordable housing. Yeah, if you rent one of our properties and then you sub-rent it to 10 other people. That's not Oshawa. That's not planning, and that's not the way of living. So what we got to do is we got to rebuild. I'm not talking about, rebuilding the wheel. What I'm talking about is pushing it to go farther, faster, and in the right direction. What we've heard so far are just basically pie in the sky dreams and hopes, and we need to work with the region, but the region for the last 25 years has had it in for Oshawa, and slowly they have eroded. We've given away our sewers, our water, our garbage, our police, our essential service. What do we have? What do we as a municipality have control of? Pipe dreams, and hopefully it'll get better, and we're talking to investors. Meanwhile, the guys in the front lines in the downtown core are suffering that they can't pay their Oshawa public utility bills, they can't pay their rents. No more excuses. It's time to take action, take control of our city, and get things done.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much. Okay, next question. There's a significant worker shortage in Oshawa. As has been mentioned, local businesses are struggling to find qualified people to fill the jobs locally. So if elected, what initiatives would you put in place to attract and train new citizens to our community? And we'll start this one with Dan.
So, Peter, you're absolutely correct. The numbers speak for themselves. We have a low unemployment rate, a very high participation rate, which is really good news for the economy locally. We have a whole new population that is coming in that we're welcoming here in the city of Oshawa, which is our Ukrainian folks that are fleeing from the Ukraine to come in here. And we're working with the Ukrainian Canadian Congress, as a matter of fact, of not only helping settle individuals into housing and make sure that they're supported, but individuals want to get into the workplace. I've been advocating with the provincial government and also the colleges and universities in regards to, on the skilled trades aspect, investing in that particular area so that the skilled trades have an opportunity to not only attract students, but also train students. I've been working with the unions to be able to say, we need opportunities for apprenticeship. And I think that that's part of the equation. But I think that the reality being is the economy at this particular time is a very interesting place. I was on the phone last night talking with a large corporation that was saying, Dan, I can't even get people to drive trucks for $85,000 a year. Things have changed dramatically since the pandemic. And a lot of people are hearing the whispers of a recession in 2023. And I think that may indicate that things are going to change dramatically. But I think that there's strategic things that we are doing at this particular time to be able to make sure that we're advocating and making opportunities available for people that want to work here. One of the key components of being able to get a workforce here is make sure that they can live here, make sure that they're able to send their kids to school here, make sure that they get health care here, make sure that it's a safe and affordable city. And we're doing that. And when you look at the opportunities to travel into Toronto, and now with the GO Train investment, I think what's happening is people see that they can work here and they can live here. And I think that that'll help us with the labor front as we move forward. But it's going to be challenging in 2023, to be absolutely honest.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Joe.
Well, everything's challenging if you don't know what you're doing. I mean, that's the old excuse. It's challenging, it's COVID, it's the feds, the province. Always pass it off to somebody else. It's our problem. The reality of it is someone that comes to work for a minimum wage job, they can't afford to pay for rent. They can't afford to pay for food. You're going to go work at one of these so-called big corporations where they pay you minimum wage, including the GM that's it now, that they're paying $20 an hour. Who can survive on $20 an hour? Who can buy a home at $20 an hour? Our good friend here, Carter, boasts on, GM's back. No, GM's not back. They know why they're back. And they're taking our employees, they're taking our youth and using them, in my opinion, as modern day slaves. That's not going to cut it. I want union jobs back in GM. I want good paying jobs, $45 plus at GM. None of this like a token, we're back. No, that's not going to cut it. You want to bring a workforce back to Oshawa, lower the rents, lower the prices of homes that you can purchase to the north that are pretty much 2x4s and plywood constructions that someone's making money off. We're not, because he keeps increasing our taxes. Where does our money go? Increased taxes would rationalize and make sense that our quality of life would go up. Well, has it? Look at our downtown. Park at any street light and look at people sleeping on our streets. How can anybody in council, including our mayor, go to sleep at night knowing that fellow citizens are having to suffer in such a drastic way? In my administration, I can assure you that that will not happen, that we will take our city back, we will supply to those in need, but we will not allow anybody to sleep on our streets or come in Oshawa to commit a crime.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much. And Sarah?
I'll tell you that there is a lot of work available. I work in the trades for an electrical contractor, and we are constantly trying to hire. Not that we win a lot of jobs that are in the city, as they're often pre-contracted out, which is frustrating for us. But I've talked to the 18 and 19-year-old first-year apprentices that we hire. They can't afford a place to live here. If they can't afford to have a vehicle. So they're taking transit. But here's the problem. One of the largest users of transit in our city is the South End and the south part of Oshawa, and they are not being serviced adequately. Yes, we have excellent transit service for all of our students going to the North End, but the south part of Oshawa and their transit services have been neglected, and it's making them late for work, and it's making it hard for them to keep a job, and it's just not reasonable that we expect these people to get up every day and suffer these challenges when all they're trying to do is pay for a roof over their head and food on their table. We do have a worker shortage, and the best way to address that is to make Oshawa a desirable place to live, an affordable place to live, a place that people brag about. So let's try to figure out what are some of the big ideas that we can do to make this better. We need to facilitate the decision-making process at City Hall to collaborate better with all of our ideas so that Oshawa can become a thriving and growing economy, because right now I'm just not seeing it.
Okay, thank you very
Peter,
much, Sarah.
I'd like to rebut in regards to a statement that Mr. Ngino has made.
30 seconds.
First of all, it's not an administration, it's the People's Council. That's number one. Number two is the people that are working down at General Motors are represented by Unifor Local 222. And if Mr. Ngino doesn't know that they are represented by Unifor 222, I would ask him to make those inquiries, because Unifor has always made sure that they represent the people at General Motors. And by the way, 50% of the people that are on the assembly line are females that are working there, supporting their families, and contributing to our community. Just rebuttal on that.
Thank you.
I'd like to
Appreciate it.
rebuttal on that
30
also.
seconds.
First of all, if he's not aware, he's the CEO of a corporation, not a town hall meeting. So first, take the responsibility of a CEO of a corporation. And if you haven't figured that out now after 4 years, I think it's time for change.
It's not an administration. It's the People's Council.
It's a corporation.
It's the People's Council.
It's a
Agreed.
It is not.
A corporation
It is not.
of the city
Okay.
of Oshawa.
Thank you
are
very
the
much.
official
Gentlemen, thank you.
CEO.
We'll move on to question 6. Thank you very much. It's been widely reported that Ontario needs 1.5 million new homes in the next 10 years to balance supply with demand. As one of the fastest growing regions in the province, pardon me, Durham region will be playing a large part of the solution. As a mayor, what will you do to improve the development approval process, timelines, and current staffing constraints to be able to stay on pace with the necessary growth? And how will you address NIMBYism, as they call it, when it comes to new developments, especially those that will address the missing middle? And we'll start this one with Joe.
Again, it goes back to City Hall. If we don't have no vision, no direction, staff pretty much runs the show. And this is what's been happening for the last 4 years. And this is primarily the reason why we have such a, what I call raping of prime farmlands to the north. We had Winfield Farms, great historical value. They tore it down because someone paid someone to purchase that land and build, again, stick houses. No, we have a demand of 600,000 homes, you were saying, or something?
1.5 in Durham region.
I mean, we're not talking about developing that many homes so that somebody can make profit. We have to be careful on how we develop, who we allow to develop, and put restrictions that one person owns one home, not one person owns the whole block and then they rent it out and they create a social and a crime-infested area because they're going to be renting it out to multiple people, and it's happening now. So to the question of how do we accomplish the goal and still be responsible, well, let's make sure that we put a cap on the development, who develops and who they sell it to. Two, affordability. No one can afford $600,000 home or $1 million home. I have 3 children. You know, they're hard workers. And I mean, even Sarah Lear, to who she employs, they can even buy a bus pass or they can't even buy food. That's not fair. That's not development. That is irresponsible governance. And again, under the Ingenious administration, I can assure you that we are going to take control of the growth, who we allow to grow, and who we allow to have permits. Those that are legit and those that are to meet the criteria needed, and for the right mix of people, definitely. As for new immigrants and as for us new, we welcome everybody. I'm an immigrant and I was welcomed to this nation, and I appreciate and I contribute as much as possible to give back to this great nation we call Canada.
Thank you,
so
Joe.
Everybody's welcome, and my administration we're garnished to that.
Thank you very much. Sarah, over to you.
Affordable housing is still an oxymoron to me, because at $1 million for a property, that's not affordable. So you try to rent and save money for a down payment. But when what's primarily been built in the past 4 years are luxury rental suites, and the development that's going in my neighborhood is targeted as luxury and executive suites, it's frustrating for me. It's frustrating because I know what needs to happen, and I see the gap in execution. Yes, I agree that Durham region has committed investments to new affordable and rent-geared income housing. It hasn't broken ground yet. Things there might change. We are redeveloping some of our rent-geared income in the south part of Oshawa right now, but many are becoming displaced as a result of this. I'm frustrated that the apartment building that burnt down on Bloor Street was rebuilt as luxury rental units. 3 more luxury rental units have gone up. And again, the luxury and executive homes, condominiums, and townhouses that they want to build across from the Costco at Ritson and Bond is also frustrating, especially for executive luxury suites, where there's a mall that has a Dollarama and a No Frills and a Bulk Barn. We are building contradictory and hypocritical to what we need. And it's time that we hold the developers responsible and ask them to rise to the challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. And Dan.
So the question, I think, was in regards to NIMBYism and also timeline. So the city of Oshawa has been recognized as the fastest approval time in the GTHA at about 8 months. So that's great. That's credit to our staff, our development staff. We've invested in staff, planners, engineers, of course, in our development department. We're modernizing all of our plans to make sure that they're digital. That's been a 2-year process. As you can imagine, you've got to take thousands of plans from the time of the beginning of our city and put them into a system. So it's been a wonderful investment, and I think it also helps us in regards to it. So we are also speaking to the government and saying, again, back to the skilled trades. If you want to build the houses, you have to have the skilled trades. So let's make sure that apprenticeship programs and college and university programs are there. When it comes to NIMBYism, NIMBYism is going to be there. One of the ways that we find about NIMBYism, one of the best ways to be able to do it is, A, we always encourage our developers to meet with the community in the surrounding areas, especially on infill, and let them know exactly what they're doing, communicate with them, get their feedback before the public meeting, and try and address the issues as they go through it. But NIMBYism is people like their communities. They want their communities to stay the same. They don't like it when intensification comes into their community. So we've got to continue to be able to address that. And I believe that there are ways of being able to address it. When it comes to the Rgi housing portfolio, which I know quite well, we've made a commitment of building 1,000 units. I think we're somewhere in the neighborhood of about 400 units by 2024 that we've got to have 1,000 new units. We just bought the region just bought the Ritson School 9 acres of land, and that's part of the development. So there is a great deal of investment into our RGI. And by the way, nobody is removed from an RGI unit without being placed in another RGI unit. That's the policy of the region. That's our housing policy, and no one will be removed to be able to tear down or redevelop without being moved into another unit.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Dan. Sarah, 30 seconds.
I never said that someone was being removed and consequently homeless. I said that they are being displaced. If you relocate someone 10 miles away and they have a family, their children are changing schools. Their children get new sets of friends. There's other issues that I have that are going on with this concept of NIMBYism. Yes, I agree that the Ritson Road School will be used for redevelopment, as I mentioned. But it's frustrating yet again for me to hear of all these wonderful things that we're doing. Because if things were so wonderful, why is everyone so frustrated when I'm knocking on their doors?
Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll just have to keep moving in the interest of time, so thank you for your comments. The GO train extension would seem to create a traffic opportunity for Clarington and Oshawa to encourage intensified housing within walking distance of transit. As mayor, how would you support planned communities with higher density in proximity to this new transit infrastructure? And how would you facilitate the building of these communities? And Sarah, we're going to start with you. Sarah?
So I'd like to put it out as an open call to any developers who can come up with the most unique strategy around the GO station. Markham and Stouffville and Uxbridge have all looked at creating small local hubs around their large transit stations that are going in. We have the opportunity now to actually plan intelligently. But the ideas don't just come from the developers. Why are we not putting a call out to our constituents and saying, what would you like to see? What would service you best? For example, we are putting a new downtown urban park in near Simcoe and Bond, which is wonderful. But again, I've been knocking on doors for 6 weeks, and I can tell you that our citizens have some really great ideas. I know that many people have asked for a portion of this new urban park to be dedicated to a small dog run, say 15 feet wide and the length of the property. Because that way we can have a nice off-leash dog area in our downtown. Right now, for all of our dog owners, which is probably greater than half of the doors I've knocked on, they have to drive all the way out to Grandview or down into the south part of Oshawa, right? So why are we not soliciting these ideas from our constituents? Why is it that we are the ones being asked on how we would do it? Because the answer is, I want to do it the way the citizens of Oshawa want to see it. It's not my idea. It's about their ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Dan, what are your thoughts?
So Sarah brings up a really good point. Public input on all of our projects is an important part. The park is a prime example. There is a process that we have through our parks development that everybody has a say in regards to design and ideas. So I agree with Sarah in regards to that. I think it's absolutely correct. In regards to the Metrolinx, I'm very excited about it. It's finally funded. New bridges, roads, sidewalks, new trails, new tracks, new bridges, all of that kind of stuff is going to be happening. It's a $1.5 billion project, and it's going to create about 20,000 jobs. We're already in the process of intensification around the GO stations, and that planning process has already started. Matter of fact, the free market, as soon as it was announced, of course, they came in looking for it. But Metrolinx has also done their job about reaching out to the public to say, what kind of amenities do you want? What kind of living do you want? What are the things that are necessary? Because these stations also are going to be built not just by Metrolinx, but the developers that are developing around the stations are going to have to contribute in regards to supporting that station. So it's about creating the right type of mixing of housing and make sure that the public has input in regards to it. Green space is going to play a big part of it. Metrolinx has made it quite clear. We don't want people driving there. We want them taking public transit, we want them cycling, or we want them walking. So that's a big part of the conversation that's going on. So Metrolinx, along with the city, along with the region, make sure that the public process is put in place. And I'm really glad that we're seeing so much interest from around the world in regards to the development around our GO stations, but it's got to be done right. And I think that the public process that is underway and the public voice has to be heard, and that's one of the things that I'm going to continue to look forward to.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you. And Joe, your comments.
I like how I hear about the public input. Yeah, we have my colleague here that she's tried for God knows how long to be heard, and yet no one's returned her to her causes. So again, another pipe in the sky type of dream that if we build it, they will come. Now, with all this environmental movement that's happening, and we have to be aware of Mother Earth, transportation, especially public transportation, is essential to the growth of our city. One of the things I keep hearing back from a lot of the folks out there is, well, they cut back my route. Now I got to walk 20 minutes to catch a bus. Again, where's the leadership? What happened to direction? You would think, as a mayor of the city, you would take those constituents' voices and report them to transit for quick action. And I hear this right across the board, across Durham region. A lot of folks in Ajax are also not happy with their routes that they've been cut back. So we talk about public input. A phone call to me could be a phone call to my colleague, that's the mayor of Oshawa. Why hasn't he acted upon it? Because again, it's just a matter of, yes, we'll take care of you. Yes, we'll listen to your voice. And then once the camera goes off, it's business as usual. And it's evident, our city is falling apart. Park downtown Oshawa and see if you feel safe. I don't. I wouldn't send my family downtown. And I consult with over 70 businesses on an almost weekly basis, and they express the same concern. There's no traffic because of the safety issue. Now, the busing, the public transportation, yes, but we got to fix a lot of other problems before we can even start thinking about it. Metrolinx, a great idea. It's great that we got it funded, not from taxpayers for once, but we now have to worry about the infrastructure and how and who it's going to benefit. Because if routes are cut and people can't get to the station, what's the point?
Okay, thank you for your comments, Joe. The next question. Firehouse Station number 1 on Arena Street services the downtown area of Oshawa. It's been suggested that this station does not have enough life-saving equipment, including enough fire trucks to adequately service and protect the downtown business core. The livelihoods and lives of downtown business owners and staff are at stake when equipment from their stations farther away than Station 1 are called in to a downtown fire emergency. As mayor, how will you ensure that all fire stations in Oshawa in every neighborhood are properly equipped to handle fire emergencies independent of one another? And we'll start this one with Dan's comments.
Again, Peter, thank you very much for the question. So Fire Station 1, a large majority of their calls, about 65% of them or 60% of them are medical related calls. And what we have found is we've invested in what's called a rapid unit that is a 4-man unit that is medical unit. It's smaller than a fire truck because of the reason that when you take a fire truck out, it's $1.5 million vehicle flying down the streets with 4 firefighters. The rapid unit is able to address the issues in regards to the medical initiatives. We take direction not only from the fire chief, the deputy fire chiefs, and the deputy fire chief, but also we did what is called a community risk assessment. And we work with an outside consultant that are experts in fire prevention and fire protection across North America about looking at our assets, looking at our investments, looking at positions of our fire stations and what resources go in what places. And we're following that plan all the way through in regards to personnel. Matter of fact, I was just graduated 12 new firefighters last week, and that was exciting, and new communication officers. But we are continuing to invest both in a capital and in operation. Matter of fact, a capital in operating into the fire services is the largest single department investment out of our budget when you look at overall budget aspects of it. Feedback from the IAFF continues to come through in regards to what would make the service better. And I continue to meet with the president, the vice president of the IAF. We're dealing with health, safety, and also personnel. And I believe that the resources that we are placing into our fire department and the monies that we're spending into our fire department make our community safe. But I depend upon the IAFF and the fire department to be able to say, these are the resources that I need, and make sure that we advocate to be able to make sure of it. The proof is in the pudding. The dollars are being spent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Joe, your comments.
He said it right. The proof is in the pudding. I mean, you got the fire chief coming to you saying, hey, I need trucks. I need to train my men. I need more men. What study are you going to conduct? Why are you paying taxpayers' dollars to conduct a study that the fire chief himself is telling you there's an urgent need? Common sense. That's something that we don't have at City Hall. We don't have vision, and we don't have a plan. So what do? We waste your tax dollars for our study to tell us the obvious. Buy more trucks, train more people. Come on. People, let's not fall for this again. We can't handle another 4 years of this same rhetoric. You know, oh yeah, we're doing this, and at the end of the day, they're doing nothing. You know, I've met with many firefighters, and I support them because you know what? They have families, they risk their lives for our safety. We can't grow as a city if we don't invest in our essential services. That includes the police and the EMS. I want the EMS, the police services, and the fires to have our full support. They need what they need, we're going to find it. And we're not going to go to the province, we're not going to go to the feds and cry, oh, well, come someday. No. We're going to sit down and we're going to look for ways to find the equipment, the training. We cannot grow. We cannot put a 20-story building in our downtown. We can even build a 3. That's why we're building dog parks at a prime intersection in our downtown of Oshawa. We're broken. We need to be fixed. Promises, statistics, and the spending and wasting of taxpayers' monies on consultants is not the answer today. It wasn't the answer yesterday. And like my friend here says, the proof is in the pudding. Drive downtown Oshawa.
Thank you. So a couple of shots fired there, Dan. I'll give you 30 seconds in a moment, but we'll just hear Sarah's comments first.
Yeah, not a problem.
So, having spoken with Peter Dyson, there's something he said that really resonated with me. That you should staff for the unknown and the emergency, which is true. That's what fire services does. They respond to emergencies, unknown, unplanned, unexpected. More research that I've done. NFPA 1710 recommends that to fight a high-rise building, you need to have a minimum of 35 fire services individuals on staff. At any given time, we have 33. When Peter Dyson started with the fire department 17 years ago, we had 34. So we actually have less people available in the field, despite the fact that our city has almost doubled in population in that time. I appreciate that we are building new fire stations, but we are only further liquidating our existing resources, redistributing existing trucks elsewhere. We cannot continue to service our high-density housing areas unless we absolutely increase our fire services. We need another truck at Fire Station 1 without question. That truck needs to be staffed, and then we will be able to hit the minimum of 35 people to respond to a high-rise fire, because you can only address an a fire up to 8 or 9 stories with an aerial truck. Then you have to go inside the stairwells and fight it from the inside with individuals, people in the building, a minimum of 35, which we cannot offer our citizens right now. So we are sitting with our fingers crossed, hoping nothing happens, and that's not the right plan.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate that. And Dan, 30 seconds.
Just on the rebuttal aspect, the NFP suggests 1 firefighter per 1,000. So we've got 196 firefighters. Our population is 177,000. Largest capital and operating budget out of the city, so we continue to do that. And we are adding another vehicle to station number 1 to be able to deal with the amount of medical calls. And I agree, the NFP gives us the guidelines to be able to achieve, and we continue to work with the president and the IAFF to make sure that no one in our community is unsafe.
Thank you.
Sorry about that for a second.
30 seconds.
Okay, excellent. Well, again, another pie in the sky statistics, right? The bottom line is before they do anything, I bet you they're going to spend more money on another study to tell them to do the obvious. CEO or corporation of the city of Oshawa should know better, should have better common sense, and should be able to lead, based on gut instinct and on what's being told by the chiefs of the fire services. Not on, maybe it happened, I don't know, we're following guidelines. No, let's cut that malarkey, let's cut it, and let's get the people the services that they require.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, thank you. All right, question number 9. We're getting there. Numerous cities develop active transportation programs and promote them. As mayor, how will you incorporate health and wellness into the city functions, and how will you encourage active transportation within the city? And we'll start this discussion with Joe.
Well, it goes back again to transportation, it goes back again policy, it goes back again to direction, it goes back to vision, something that we lack in our city. So to comment on something that we don't have or we partially have, or that once my good friend here starts reading more statistics, pie in the sky type of projections, and no, let's get real. Let's get real in what's happening in Oshawa. In Oshawa, we need to revamp. We need to have staff that have the expertise, and we as taxpayers pay them extremely well. Let them give us the input. Let them make the suggestion. Let's bring the government back to the people, and let's use the staff and the professionals that we have working at the City Hall to benefit our daily lives. It's great to increase taxes when we make mistakes. Yeah, they've been doing it for the last 4 years. And they brag that, oh, well, it could be worse. I mean, look at Pickering. No, forget about looking. Look here. It's coming out of your pocket. It's coming out of my pocket. And our quality of life is not getting any better. So he can read statistics till he turns blue. The facts are the facts. And much in his words, the proof is in the pudding. Again, go downtown Oshawa. Go up north with the new developments and talk to some of those folks and see what their concerns are. Their concerns are that he wants to bring 1 fire truck. We need like 4 or 5. I mean, that development's up north. Even the fire chief himself had gone public saying that their trucks can't get into some of the subdivisions because of the configuration and the parking. We can talk about all kinds of issues, but if we don't fix the root of the problem, we'll have these for eternity. And can we afford another 4 years of the same? Ask yourself that when you go and vote. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Sarah, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm reminded of a gentleman that I spoke to on Sunday when I was knocking on doors in Ward 2. And he's a little disappointed because Oshawa does have an excellent trail network, but not in the north end yet. And that's because developers build houses first and then the trails around them. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg scenario, but I think that we need to be putting in these trails first for our residents and then build the housing and the roads around them if they're going to be a priority. Because otherwise, we can't encourage people to use them if they're not convenient. Right now, people aren't using them actively to transport themselves to work. They're doing it on weekends and casually and for entertainment and to go out with their cycling clubs and their neighbors and their friends. It's a social form of transportation because right now, people can't work in Oshawa. They're working elsewhere. So another thing we need to do is, I'm reminded of a lady, Jen, who I was speaking with, who used to take the trails all the time that run parallel to Harmony Street. You can pick them up at King and Bond. Lovely trail. I used to walk my dog there, and I say used to, because they're full of needles. And they're full of unsheltered individuals that are setting up tent cities because we're chasing them away from other areas. We're not addressing the problem, we're just shuffling them around. We need to make our trails safer so that they can be used more for actually active transportation as opposed to potentially for a casual social experience as a club form. So we need to make them a greater priority for real and not just do that lip service if that's what the plan is. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. And Dan.
So I think the original question was about active transportation. Is that correct?
You got it. Yeah.
So in 2014, when I was first elected as a regional and city councillor, I sat on the Active Transportation Network and Committee. And it was an interesting conversation because a big part of health, well-being, mental health really is about active lifestyles and safe active lifestyles. And one of the issues that came up time after time is how do we create in boulevard transportation pathways to be able to give people an opportunity to be active? Because if you only have on-street active transportation networks, they don't feel as safe. So we've invested in boulevard active transportation plans. And all you have to do is go up Thornton Road all the way to Taunton, across Taunton, over to Somerville, and you'll see how these networks are coming together. So we are investing in the active transportation networks, and we want to make sure that they are safe. The in-boulevard pathways are a lot better to go. In regards to the developers in new development, we're asking them to advance many of their pathways ahead of schedule. To make sure that they can be connected as the community is being developed. You know, I'm really pleased to be able to see some of our traditional trails like the Joe Colazzi Trail, the Michael Starr Trail, the Harmony Trail. All of these trails are being resurfaced. Of course, the brush is being heightened. We're putting lighting in those particular areas. So we're developing it because we understand that active transportation has to be safe active transportation, and that's a big part of where the initiative is. But the other aspect of it is the people that are moving here, they want active transportation lifestyles and opportunities here. And those downtown developments in the downtown core, many of them have 30 to 50 to 75 biking spots in their developments to make sure that they're able to meet the needs. So we do have an active community. It is growing. We're not where Ajax is, and Ajax has been on that road for many, many years under the direction of Mayor Parrish, but Oshawa is moving in that direction. So I hope I answered the question, Peter. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Rebuttal, 30 seconds.
I am fondly reminded of the owner of Diamond Grill. His name is Jay, and I go there often. It's on the southwest corner of Wilson and Olive. And he rides his bike here all the way from Ajax, where he lives, every morning. But he doesn't like when he starts getting into the city of Oshawa's portion of it on his trip. He's had many concerns previously and will continue to have concerns. So yes, while I appreciate that Ajax is the standard, we are actively falling short, and to pretend like things are okay is not okay with me.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, so we'll shift gears to a bit of a business, more of a business-focused question here. So we, the Chamber, have one particular business who says, and I'm going to quote them here, I received my building permits from the city, zoned as industrial. The region permits were delayed as they said that our use was commercial rather than industrial. We could not get our bank loan until the permits were in place. We had to get our legal team involved, which incurred cost, and once the permits had been approved at the regional level, interest rates had risen, adding $1 million to our cost. How do you not only streamline operations at the city, but facilitate regional red tape reduction for businesses operating in the city of Oshawa? And we'll start this question with Sarah.
I don't think I have this answer because my boss and owner of our company has struggled to try to do business with the city of Oshawa ourselves. We've wanted to put a sign on our business to be able to let people know, especially since We're on Albert Street, downtown, so well aware of the downtown issues. It's a one-way. So if clients do come to visit me and they happen to miss our building because we have no sign out, then they have to circle all the way around and try to come back. So I don't find that doing business with the City of Oshawa is user-friendly. It's one of the big issues that I've spoken about with Council for the past 4 years. This is one of the things I'd like to fix. And I don't know if I have this idea, but I'm willing to stand here and say that it is a problem and that it's not getting better and that it's not getting easier. And again, I'm frustrated that our former mayor is the regional chair and our current mayor have an active working relationship that's wonderful. So why were they not able to resolve this issue? I will give Dan Carter credit. When you call him, he'll answer his phone. So he must have been aware of this problem. Why was this not able to be expedited and addressed sooner? I don't have an answer for this, just a lot of questions. Just like the past 4 years, I've been asking a lot of questions and I haven't gotten any answers. So hopefully there will be a magical solution presented so that these things don't continue to happen. The solution, Dan?
Thank you, Sarah. So we'll go to Dan next, and just a reminder: this is sort of that we're questioning what your plans are moving forward to sort of help improve this for.
So
for
Peter,
all
I
three.
do know this file, and it's
Yeah.
an interpretation by a legal team at the region,
Yeah.
and an interpretation by the city. The city, we made our interpretation. We dealt with the developer. The developer was very happy. We also sent our recommendations to the region and said, this is how we interpret it. This is what we believe is fair. This is what falls under the zoning bylaws. This is what we believe is the proper process in regards to development. Their legal team disagreed in regards to it. And the developer continued to fight with them. As a matter of fact, our team continued to work with the developer to be able to say to them, we've drawn this conclusion. You should draw this conclusion. They're not misleading you. This is exactly what's happening. I understand their frustration. The issue being is their legal department has made a determination. Our community, or our departments have made their determination, and we believe that we were fair on it, and the developer was quite pleased with how we handled it. Their frustration was with the region. So our staff worked with the region to be able to say, there's got to be a better solution than what you're coming, and the region just wouldn't back down at all. So in that circumstance, their interpretation of the legal aspects, they have the right to be able to interpret it, and it goes back to the developer. And unfortunately, in this circumstance, it is the region making that determination, and they're going to have to, unfortunately, pay that fee. How can it improve? I think what we have to do is we have to continue to look at our zoning guidelines at both sides and make sure that they mirror one another, that we're continuing to evaluate it, and make sure that all the pertinent information is going all the way through. We're going to have situations like this as they come up, as developers come into our community. We've got to make sure that as we have issues that arise, that we address it, figure out what are the steps that are necessary in regards to resolving it, how do we get the region on side, and how do we make sure we go by the playbook, which is the zoning bylaw, and of course the municipal act. And our team is always responsible in regards to that.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Dan. Joe.
Well, in regards to like someone coming up with a magical formula to solving this, it's pretty easy. It's an administrative problem. We have we have a lot of red tape at City Hall. They second guess themselves, and by the time they make a decision, we got legal challenges. In my opinion, what I would have done and what I'm going to do is first revamp how we issue our permits. Expedite. And let's make it happen. When we have a circumstance like this where the region's involved, it's a matter of approaching the region. You know, if we sit and wait and we send letters back and forth, time passes, opportunity passes, and this individual is in the hole for $1 million. And of course, he's going to recourse to legal matters because it's only common sense. When everybody else shuts their door, you turn desperate, and it's $1 million that's on the table. I wouldn't have waited to that point, and I wouldn't refer like our good mayor, our team. No, you take the initiative, you meet with those people, you meet with your staff, and you sit on council at the region, you go to the region and take it to the department that needs to be taken to and have them act upon it. If not, go to the regional chair and ask him to have quick resolve, because there's $1 million on the line. It's not his money, it's not the regional chair's money, but it's a person that wants to invest in our community, and that's like all our money. So this is how I would handle it. I would take charge of the situation, not pass it on to my colleagues, like my friend and our team, right? The team is only there to make things go faster, not to throw an anchor into the process, and then you're facing a legal challenge. No way. Our legal department at City Hall is sitting on millions and millions and millions of challenges that can be resolved over a coffee. But no, what does the city do? They rather pay out the local downtown lawyers to operate on their behalf so that then he can grandstand in front of their property with their campaign signs. Ridiculous. Your tax dollars.
Thank you. And Dan, 30 seconds to rebut.
Bottom line is, I'm not going to break the law. The law is set out there. It's interpreted by legal departments. The legal department takes the rules, the regulations that are set out in the Municipal Act. They apply it accordingly. My intervention directly to staff, directly to the region is, this is our interpretation. I am not going to break the law. And I'm not going to start making up laws. We have a responsibility of oath of office to follow the laws of the land. I'm committed in regards to that.
Yeah, just like you follow the law of the land by putting up signs early. Wow, good job.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So this concludes our question period for today. If you remember from the beginning of our setting of the ground rules and everything, there will be an opportunity for each of our candidates here to have some closing remarks as well. So 2 minutes each on the clock for some closing statements here this morning. And we will start just in reverse order from our opening statement. So Sarah, please fire away.
Thank you, Peter. And thank you to the Oshawa Chamber of Commerce once again, the Durham Region Association of Realtors, and the Durham Region Home Builders Association, and obviously all of the constituents that have taken time out of their day. Some I know have left late for work today just to be able to see this. And I really thank you for that. I thank you for your interest in our democratic process. And I'd really like to inspire you this time around to show up and vote. In 2018, I ran a fully self-funded campaign, and I'm running a fully self-funded campaign once again because I don't want to owe anyone any favors. I would encourage you to go review our financial statements from 2018 because I happen to notice that 63% of Dan Carter's financial contributions were from people that don't even live in our city. And this is frustrating to me. And that's why I'm not asking for any money or any donations, only for your vote. That's what I need, is your support and your vote. But on to more important things. Our centennial is March 8th, 2024, and we should already be taking bookings and advertising this. We should be getting tourists coming. We should be getting our existing residents excited, our future residents excited. We need to have some big ideas. What I'd like to see is maybe an open water swimming marathon. I've talked with constituents at the door and they've suggested a large children's sporting celebration, maybe indoor soccer or a hockey tournament. We could have 100 hot air balloons released. There's a lot of wonderful offerings that Oshawa has, and they're not being displayed properly. Listening to me today, you can tell that I care. I care about this city and its businesses, and that's why I'm willing to do more than just complain. So that's why on October 24th, 2022, if you want an Oshawa for everyone, vote for me, Sarah Lear. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah. Mr. Ingino.
Well, I would urge everyone to come out and vote. There's never been such an important time as 2022. Our downtown is decaying, and if we continue for another 4 years, it can only get worse. So I ask everyone to come out and vote. And please vote and review who you're voting. Vote on credentials, experience, education, and what they have contributed back to the community through the last 30 years. We have, by her own admittance, that she has issues with figuring out certain things in Oshawa. She works as a clerk at an electrical company. Now, I ask you, is that the clear choice? And then we have my good friend here, in which he's great at reading statistics, and I'm sure he looks great on television as he did prior to being mayor. But has he accomplished anything? Much in his words. The proof is in the pudding. Are you happy with your tax increases every year? Are you happy with the quality of life of you, your children? If those answers are not obvious, I don't know what is, much like who you should be voting for in 2022. I don't promise you to have all the answers, but I promise you to work hard. And I make a public vow that I will not take a penny from taxpayers until I clean up our downtown. Can my good colleagues say the same? Maybe you should ask them. All I know is that I'm going to work in your best interest, and every tax dollar that we use, we're going to use it to better you, your family, and the future of Oshawa. So if you want the same status quo, it's your call. All I'm asking is to give me an opportunity to prove myself to serve you.
Thank you, Joe. And Mr. Carter.
Thank you very much, Peter. I greatly appreciate it. Accomplishments. I'm proud of the accomplishments that we've been able to accomplish over the 4 years. Low unemployment, record investment, high participation rate, high population growth, massive investment in infrastructure capital, great projects such as the GO train coming, new bridges, new interchanges at Simcoe and Harmony. I'm very proud of the international companies that are coming here, creating jobs. I'm proud of how our team performed throughout the pandemic. I'm proud of how we work with General Motors and Unifor to find a solution where 3,000 people now have a job. I'm proud of the last 4 years. This council has done an incredible job along with an incredible staff. And you know, there's a saying, the news or their news. And the reality being is today you heard a lot about their news. Not factual, not true, not statistically supported, but their interpretation of things. I admire anybody that puts their name on a ballot. And I'll tell you something, the greatest honor I've had is to serve this city as the mayor of the great city of Oshawa. I hope I get the opportunity to secure your support so that on October 24th, Dan Carter can continue the work that was started 4 years ago. I am proud of our city. I am not one that will buy into anger and fear and darkness. I am one of hope and optimism. Are we going to have challenges? Absolutely.
Yeah, I can see it downtown.
Absolutely. We're going to have challenges. And excuse me, Mr. Ingino, but I truly, truly believe that this is our moment, this is our time. We've got a lot of great components that we can grow: our healthcare, our education, our safe cities, and the prosperity of our community. Tomorrow is always going to be brighter than today. I'm optimistic. Don't buy into fear and anger and misinformation.
No, pipe dreams are good.
Ask the questions, go online, look at the writings, look at the records, and say to yourself, who would you like to lead the great city of Oshawa?
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
And
Peter.
thank you to all three of you for being with us here this morning, for, as Dan said, putting your names on the ballot. It's a big step forward in your own lives, as well as for the opportunity for the great city of Oshawa voters. Again, a special thanks to our sponsors for today, our Durham Region Association of Realtors and the Durham Region Home Builders Association. Huge thank you to the team at the Greater Oshawa Chamber of Commerce. The staff there have worked really hard to put this morning's event together with, of course, the help of Rogers Television. So thanks to everybody behind the cameras for helping us pull everything together. And most importantly to you, our viewers. Thank you for being here with us this morning. I know it's maybe getting up a little bit early, being a little bit late for work, as some folks had mentioned, but we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to find yourself the best education that you can to make an informed decision on October 24th. So thank you all for being with us here this morning. Thanks again to our candidates. I wish you all a pleasant day. Thank you.